Hello and welcome. This is your instructor, Dennis Westman, and today I would like to talk a little bit about Excel Unit E. Now this begins on page 106 and it is dealing with formulas. And so this one's going to be real important that you pay careful attention to and read through all of the different material. Beginning on page 106, you have information that deals with the different types of text functions. And text functions just allow you to perform some sort of operation on labels or text type items in Excel. And a couple of the ones that they're going to talk about would be items like the proper function, which what is really neat about this is, let's say you get some data and it includes like first name and last name, but first name and last name are all in lowercase. With the proper function, it'll force the first letter of the first name and the first letter of the last name to be proper case or be capitalized. And so that's really nice, nice little function. And concatenate is another function that this page talks about, and this is actually where it's joining two different strings together. For instance, you may not know this or be aware of this, but your email address is actually done in this manner because it takes bits of your last name and bits of your student ID, combines it together. So it's taking two different element strings, combines it together to make the beginnings of your username, followed by some other stuff. And so those two types of functions are used quite heavily. And I think this is what usually becomes surprising to most people, because you don't really realize that those kinds of things are available in Excel. Most people think of Excel as numbers, but really it is very powerful when it comes to dealing with data such as text. And so that's discussed on page 106. 107 talks about some additional ways, including lower and substitute and upper. Those are some additional functions that you can use to manipulate text within Excel. Turning the page to 108, this is all about summing a data range based on conditions. So you're essentially using the SUMIF or the average if function, and what those do is those will look at a set of conditions like yes or no, and it'll only sum the values next to those conditions if the condition is met. So let's say you want to say, I want to add all of these items together only if they have a yes in this column. And so it looks at this column, then looks at this column, and then adds them together depending on whether or not it's a yes or a no. Average does the same thing as sum, essentially, except it's averaging things instead of summing things. And so on page 109, you can actually see the format of the SUMIF function at the very top of the page. So you definitely want to pay attention to that as you're working through those kinds of functions. On page 110, it's talking about consolidating data using a formula, and this is just really just being able to pull information together from multiple worksheets into one common worksheet, essentially linking the data from other places into one place. It's very useful if you got stuff spread out throughout multiple worksheets. And then page 112 is the option to check formulas for errors. And you can get a list of errors on page 113, but essentially this is allowing you to go through, and if you get an error, sometimes it'll help suggest changes to allow you to fix that error. Honestly, I'll tell you that a lot of times those error messages are helpful, but the fixes it offers are not very helpful. And so a lot of times you'll have to just retrace your steps and try to figure out what you might have done, because the information to kind of help you is not quite as helpful as you would hope. Page 114 is talking about constructing formulas using named ranges. And essentially what this is let's say you want A1 through A10, you select it all and you name it north or north cells. And then maybe you select B1 through B10 and that's south cells. Well, so you can actually construct a formula by adding north cells plus south cells. You don't have to reference the cells by their cell references, but rather by the named reference or the named range. And actually it's kind of nice and helpful because you don't have to worry about trying to figure out the cells. You just have to worry about the name. And it does make it helpful to be able to use those formulas depending on where you are in the process, but it allows some different options to be able to pull those ranges back and incorporate those into formulas. Page 116 talks about building formulas with like an if function. So a logical formula is typically constructed using an if function, meeting a stated condition, this, if not, then this kind of thing. And this is where a lot of people have some trouble trying to get these to work out in such a way that provides the results and actually test for some sort of logical condition. So I would really read through carefully page 116 and page 117 and really grasp what it's talking about, because it's going to be really important. And then on page 118, it's a logical function with an AND function. So it's kind of like looking at if it's this, then this, and this. So it's just sort of adding an additional string or additional test to check, or additional argument to be able to check to see if something meets a certain criteria. Page 120, this last 2 pages in the textbook, on this unit talks about the payment function, and this is a financial function that helps calculate payments. And you could read through this and see, but what's really nice about this payment function is it allows you to, calculate the payment of a particular loan over the course of some sort of set of years, an interest rate, term, that sort of thing. If you ever go to a website and it asks you to put in like the principal amount, the interest rate, and the term, that's essentially what the payment function is doing, except it's doing it in Excel. So that's really the straightforward part to the payment function. As usual, if you have any questions, you're welcome to post them to the general class chat or email me. And as always, I appreciate you watching this. Thank you and have a great day.